On the morning of June 1st, 2018, a man in his 60s arrived at the Xindian District Police Station in New Taipei, Taiwan, to file a report. His last name was Gao, and he was there to report the disappearance of his daughter, Gao Nu. The story began the afternoon prior. Around 3 p.m. on May 31st, Gao Nu texted her younger sister saying, "It's too hot. I'm going out to find a cooler place." That was the last piece of information anyone had about her. After that message, no one knew where she went or what she was doing. However, from the police's perspective, there wasn't much reason to panic yet. According to them, there were several reasons to stay calm. Firstly, it had only been over 10 hours since Gao Nu was last seen. Additionally, she was a 30-year-old woman, not a toddler who needed constant supervision. It wasn't uncommon for adults to forget their phones or lose touch temporarily, nor was it unusual for someone not to return home for a night. Still, as part of their duty, the police initiated a preliminary investigation after the report was filed. Initial clues seemed to support the police's assumption. They found a text message on Gao Nu's phone revealing her plans to visit the Huashan area in Taipei on the afternoon of May 31st. Huashan is a well-known cultural and creative park, particularly popular among young people for camping, picnicking, and cultural events. According to the message, Gao Nu was planning to attend an art seminar there. With this information, everyone, including her father, felt somewhat reassured, thinking that she might have just lost track of time while having fun. However, the situation became alarming when 3 days passed without any sign of her. By this point, even the calmest person would start to worry. On the morning of June 3rd, the family rushed to the Taipei police station, which had jurisdiction over the Huashan area, to file another report about Gao Nu's mysterious disappearance. Once the disappearance had exceeded 72 hours, the police recognized that this case was more complex than it initially seemed. They quickly assembled 2 investigative teams. One team went into Huashan to search for any traces of Gao Nu, while the other reviewed all surveillance footage in the area, hoping to find clues about her whereabouts. The initial investigation yielded results when the police located several individuals who had interacted with Gao Nu. Most notable was the testimony of a convenience store owner. According to her testimony, on the afternoon of May 31st, Gao Nu had stopped by her store to withdraw about $32 from the ATM. During the transaction, they exchanged a few words, and Gao Nu mentioned that the money was for tuition for some course. The store owner vividly remembered that Gao Nu appeared completely normal, with no signs of distress. Other visitors to Huashan also reported seeing Gao Nu. While this information didn't explain her disappearance, it confirmed that she had indeed reached Huashan. However, after investigating nearly all the art seminars held in the area on May 31st, no one had seen Gao Nu. The situation grew stranger as the police reviewed footage from all entrance and exit cameras from the time of the incident until then. The surveillance team found no information about Gao Nu's movements, suggesting that she vanished after leaving the convenience store. Given this scenario, the police could only come up with 2 hypotheses. Either Gao Nu was still somewhere in the Huashan area, or someone had managed to get her out of the area without being captured by the cameras. Both possibilities posed significant challenges for the investigation. Despite the growing mystery, the police shifted focus to investigating Gao Nu's personal life. They began looking for clues about her mental state or any recent unusual behavior, suspecting that her disappearance might have been impulsive, driven by psychological stress. While this shift in the investigation's direction seemed odd to some, it had its reasons. The police found that Gao Nu was a well-educated and compassionate young woman, passionate about geography and Taiwanese cultural history. Her kindness was evident in her efforts to raise funds for victims of the 2016 Kaohsiung earthquake. However, deeper scrutiny of Gao Nu's social media posts revealed other notable details, especially concerning her strained relationship with her family. For instance, she once shared a story from her college years. While preparing to return home for winter break, her wallet was stolen. Desperate, she had to ask her father for help, but instead of showing sympathy, he harshly criticized her. In addition to family troubles, Gao Nu faced difficulties in her post-graduation life. After experiencing several job failures, she expressed her frustrations on Facebook. Taipei feels like a monstrous city to me now. Every morning I wake up, I just want to cry. There's a voice inside me screaming to run away from here. Although she attempted to start fresh by returning to her hometown for work, she was soon bullied at her new job, isolated by veteran colleagues. Unable to bear the invisible pressures any longer, she eventually quit. Reflecting on the series of hardships and challenges she endured, it was easy to understand the mental toll Gao Nu had faced over the years. This prompted the police to pay close attention to her psychological state during the investigation. However, these speculations were quickly dismissed by Gao Nu's younger sister, her closest relative. She firmly told the police that while her sister had faced many setbacks in her career, those were all in the past. Currently, Gao Nu's life was more stable, as she worked at a Japanese fashion store and had a good relationship with her manager. My sister has no boyfriend. Her life only revolves around work and home. It may be monotonous, but there's nothing to be upset about, the younger sister shared. Therefore, the idea that she might do something drastic is completely unfounded. As for the possibility that she had left home voluntarily, her sister pointed out one inconsistency. If she were planning to go somewhere, she would have at least taken her phone, right? Her sister's reasoning not only made the police reconsider their initial hypothesis, but also forced them to eliminate several other investigative avenues. They began analyzing each possibility. Given her job as a clothing store sales associate, Gao Nu's income was likely modest, making robbery an unlikely motive. Additionally, her lack of a romantic relationship ruled out a crime of passion, and her reclusive lifestyle made a revenge-driven murder implausible. Having ruled out all other possibilities, investigators were left with only one hypothesis. This might be a random homicide. Such cases are often the hardest to investigate and solve. If there was no footage of Gao Nu leaving Huashan, why didn't the police thoroughly search the entire area? In fact, it wasn't that the police didn't want to search, but that Huashan has certain characteristics. The Huashan Creative Park is a venue for artists to develop their creativity and for non-profit organizations to host events. It serves as a hub for various artists, including theater groups, painters, wood sculptors, writers, filmmakers, and directors to showcase their talents. Their goal was to create a paradise for art enthusiasts, breaking free from traditional media, spatial, and ideological constraints. In 2016, they launched the 120 Prairie Autonomous Zone, obtained land from the Taipei government, and established the Huashan Creative Park. Thus, the place also became known as Huashan Prairie, or the Prairie Autonomous Zone. Hearing the term autonomous zone suggests that, unless absolutely necessary, the government usually refrains from intervening in the area. While investigators cautiously explored each hypothesis, Gao Nu's family was desperate. Frustrated by the police's slow progress, they decided to take matters into their own hands by hiring a renowned search expert with a significant fee. This expert, Chen Wei, trained a reputable search dog team. One of his standout dogs was a Weimaraner with exceptional scent detection skills, earning it the nickname Star Dog in the rescue team. The dog was named Lin Ling. However, despite having a star dog on their side, both the police and Gao's family had limited expectations. Heavy rainfall in Taipei during the incident days had likely weakened or erased human scent, significantly impacting the dog's search effectiveness. As expected, Lin Ling found nothing during the first 5 hours at Huashan. Unexpectedly, when the search team reached a corner, the dog suddenly displayed unusual behavior, becoming extremely excited. Following its instinct, it rushed forward, stopping in front of a small wooden house called Yeju Chao Tang, where it began barking incessantly. Startled by the dog's strong reaction, the police didn't hesitate and immediately entered the house. As they ventured deeper inside, the dog's behavior grew even more intense. It not only kept barking, but also sniffed around continuously. The climax came when the dog discovered a bed in the bedroom. It jumped onto it and clung tightly, resisting any attempt to pull it away. This indicated that Gao Nu had likely been in the wooden house and may have slept on the bed the dog was clinging to. The police promptly questioned the owner of the wooden house, a man named Chen Boqian. However, when faced with police questioning, Chen seemed utterly surprised, even somewhat confused. He not only claimed not to know Gao Nu, but also stated that he hadn't seen anyone matching her description recently. This left the police in a difficult position. On one hand, there was the unusual and strong reaction from the search dog, but on the other hand, there was Chen's firm denial. Legally, a dog's behavior alone wasn't sufficient grounds for a search warrant. Moreover, Chen's calm and cooperative demeanor raised no immediate suspicion. After some consideration, the investigators reluctantly withdrew, feeling frustrated. Naturally, with experience dealing with various criminals, the investigators weren't ready to accept Chen's story at face value. They immediately launched a thorough background check on him. The investigation's findings were alarming, suggesting that Gao Nu's fate might be in grave danger. Beneath Chen's polite and calm exterior was a very different person, an experienced liar. During the investigation, the police discovered that Yeju Chao Tang wasn't just an ordinary wooden house. It was actually an archery club. Chen wasn't only the owner, but he also claimed to be an indigenous Siadic tribe member and an archery instructor. On May 19, 2018, over 10 days before the disappearance, Gao Nu, who was interested in indigenous culture, contacted Chen through Facebook. She had arranged an in-person meeting to interview him about indigenous culture while also experiencing archery lessons. Things started to make more sense. The art seminar Gao Nu mentioned might have been this meeting, and her visit to the convenience store to withdraw money was likely to pay for the archery course. Given this evidence, Chen's testimony became increasingly suspicious. How could he claim not to know Gao Nu when they had exchanged messages and planned a meeting? Clearly, something was off in his story. An unexpected development added more suspicion to the case. On June 2, 2018, a day after Gao Nu disappeared, her younger sister accidentally sent a group message while checking her sister's phone, which had been left at home. As one of the contacts in her phone, Chen also received the message. His reaction, however, was peculiar. Instead of ignoring a mistaken message, he immediately called Gao Nu's number saying, "Where have you gone? Your sister is looking for you." What did this statement suggest? It hinted that Chen might have already known about Gao Nu's disappearance. To the experienced eyes of the police, this call signaled panic and anxiety. It seemed that the message from Gao Nu's sister had rattled him, causing him to inadvertently reveal something. The reasons behind his unusual response were likely self-evident. Further investigations uncovered even more unsettling facts about Chen's true character. The man who claimed to be an indigenous Siadic was actually a former cadet of the Air Force Academy. After leaving the academy, he became a wandering delinquent, resorting to archery lessons as a means of income only when he ran out of options. His indigenous identity was merely a ruse to add an air of mystique to his business. Chen's personal life was even more shocking. Despite having a wife and children, he remained unfaithful. One woman was so outraged that she publicly accused him on social media, claiming that Chen had pretended to be single, got her pregnant, and then heartlessly abandoned her. These suspicious leads made the police increasingly certain that Gao Nu had met with foul play involving Chen. In an effort to gather more evidence, they decided to return to Yeju Chaotang, this time bringing along Gao Nu's sister for a face-to-face confrontation with Chen. When Chen faced the police this time, he remained unfazed. During the questioning, he even leisurely ate stinky tofu nearby, so relaxed that the police momentarily wondered if they might have suspected the wrong person. Bringing Gao Nu's sister along, however, proved to be a wise decision. While Chen was trying to evade with vague excuses, the sister suddenly froze when she noticed a familiar laptop on the table. It was her sister's laptop. This discovery was a devastating blow to Chen's false composure. Sweat began to pour down his forehead. As the investigators intensified their questioning, he completely lost control and even bit one of the officers. While this act of violence shocked everyone present, it inadvertently provided an opening for the investigation. With a charge of assault, the police had sufficient legal grounds to detain Chen and continue the interrogation under better conditions. From experience, the police knew that once a suspect lost composure, their psychological defenses were close to collapsing. However, back at the station, Chen adopted a defiant stance, maintaining his innocence and refusing to admit to any wrongdoing. The standoff continued until the legal detention period expired, forcing the police to release him. The lack of sufficient evidence to detain a suspect is an unfortunate reality of legal proceedings, but is understandable. Yet, at this stage of the investigation, all signs pointed to one conclusion. Gao Nu's disappearance was strongly connected to Chen. What happened next only strengthened that belief. Immediately upon being released from the police station, Chen's first action was to attempt an escape. He rushed back to the wooden house, gathered some essential items, and prepared to flee with a woman. Fortunately, Gao Nu's sister and a family friend named Xu Wenjian had anticipated this. They were hiding nearby, keeping an eye on the wooden house. Upon seeing Chen's escape attempt, they quickly alerted the police and tried to stop him. Confronted by this situation, the woman accompanying Chen, identified as Luo, suddenly became agitated and tried to block the police and family members. Her intention was likely to give Chen a chance to flee the scene. During the commotion, Xu Wenjian suddenly shouted, "A girl has been missing for over 10 days. What have you done? You must have been battling your conscience all this time. But I am a man of faith, and in the name of the Bodhisattva, I hope that when you descend to hell, the Bodhisattva will forgive you. I beg you, tell the truth." It's unclear whether Xu's words struck a chord with Chen or if he simply realized that escape was impossible. Either way, Chen abruptly stopped resisting and confessed to killing Gao Nu. As the police had suspected, Chen Boqian's motive was sexual assault followed by murder. Initially, the plan was for Gao Nu to leave Huashan after learning about indigenous culture and completing her archery lesson. But Chen insisted on inviting her to stay for a dinner, featuring indigenous dishes. Hearing the words indigenous dishes piqued the interest of the culturally curious Gao Nu, and she agreed. During the dinner, Chen invited a few other archery students to join. Under the pretext of a warm welcome, they encouraged Gao Nu to drink heavily, leading to her passing out at the table. With his initial goal achieved, Chen's true nature emerged. After sending his friends away, he could no longer contain his dark desires. Believing that he could do as he pleased, Chen thought the night would unfold as planned. But fate was not on his side. Around 4 a.m. on June 1st, Gao Nu suddenly woke up. Realizing the situation she was in, she fought back fiercely, trying to protect herself. In his desperation to prevent her screams from attracting attention, Chen resorted to strangling her. Ultimately, Gao Nu died from asphyxiation. At this point, it was already a grave case of sexual assault and murder. However, what happened next was even more horrifying. Driven by a sick and incomprehensible mindset, Chen did not dispose of the body immediately. Instead, he chose to stay in the same room with Gao Nu's lifeless body for 3 days. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he dismembered her body, cutting it into multiple pieces. He packed the parts into 7 bags and disposed of them in the Yangmingshan mountain area. Chen chose these locations for their strong sulfuric smell, which he believed would help conceal his crime. What was even more chilling was that when the police searched Yangmingshan for the remains, some parts were never found. It wasn't until much later, during a search of Chen's house, that police discovered some preserved human tissue samples from the victim. However, some body parts are still missing. Regarding the fate of the remaining parts, the police likely prefer not to imagine the worst possibilities. Even an experienced forensic expert named Cao Dachin, when interviewed about the case, expressed his outrage, describing Chen as a severe sociopath who was beyond rehabilitation. His judgment reflected the sheer barbarity of this criminal. Thus, when the case of Gao Nu was first reported, it immediately caught public attention. Aside from discussing Chen's cruelty, people focused on another issue: whether he had accomplices. There were 2 main reasons for this suspicion. First, the police could not locate Gao Nu's arm in Yangmingshan. When questioned, Chen appeared confused, pointing to several locations, but the searchers still couldn't find it. This led some to suspect that someone else had helped him dismember and dispose of the body, which would explain why he was unsure of certain parts' whereabouts. Second, according to Chen's testimony, he transported the body to Yangmingshan on a motorcycle. The problem is that the distance from Huashan to Yangmingshan is over 30 miles, and Gao Nu weighed over 220 pounds. Many regular motorcyclists found it unlikely that someone could manage to carry such a load under low-light conditions alone. Having help seemed more plausible. In fact, the police also considered this possibility. Unfortunately, there are few surveillance cameras in Yangmingshan Park, making it impossible to confirm whether Chen had accomplices. However, what no one expected was that these speculations would inspire Chen's own defense. During the trial in August 2019, he suddenly changed his testimony, claiming that he did not sexually assault or kill Gao Nu. He alleged that the real perpetrator was someone named Eric, who had threatened his family, including his young child, forcing him to take the fall. Furthermore, Chen claimed that his earlier confession was not voluntary, but coerced by Xu Wenjian, the friend of Gao's father. Chen described Xu as a thug, who not only forced him to confess, but also threatened to hire someone to kill him if he didn't. However, how could Xu have threatened Chen inside a police station when he wasn't even a police officer? How could he have managed to intimidate a suspect inside the station? Luckily, the Taipei District Court officials saw through Chen's outlandish claims. Regardless of how much Chen tried to twist the truth, on August 5, 2019, he was sentenced to death for premeditated murder. However, the case didn't end there. It took another unexpected turn. Chen Boqian appealed the ruling, and, shockingly, he succeeded. On April 7, 2020, the Supreme Court ruled that Chen Boqian still had a chance for rehabilitation and reduced his sentence to life imprisonment. The Gao family, understandably, could not accept this decision. Yet, no matter how strongly they protested, it was all in vain. Despite receiving a reduced sentence, Chen adamantly refused to pay any compensation. Enraged by Chen's defiance, the Gao family decided to sue the Taipei Urban Development Department. Their claim was that the department had issued a permit for the use of Huashan Creative Park, but failed to manage it properly, allowing criminals like Chen to operate there unchecked, which indirectly led to the tragedy. Consequently, the family sought compensation of about $485,000. Their claim was promptly dismissed by the lower court. The court ruled that Chen Boqian was neither a government official, nor had he been performing any official duties. Thus, there was no managerial negligence involved. The Urban Development Department only managed government officials, and Chen did not fall under their jurisdiction. Reflecting on the entire case, it's clear that it left behind a deep sense of injustice. On one side, a savage criminal was spared the death penalty, while on the other, the victim's family not only lost a loved one, but also received no compensation whatsoever. They were even denied emotional closure, as the courts repeatedly rejected their legitimate claims. And this is today's story. What do you think about this case? Please share in the comments section below. Thank you for following, and see you in the next videos.